And welcome, and a special welcome to Rachel. Rachel, do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm Rachel and I live in North Devon in Barnstable with my husband Sam and our three children. We've got Eben, who's 10, and Pearl, who's 5, and Gloria, who is 17 months. And currently I'm a stay-at-home mum, but I used to be a secondary teacher and I also worked for the diocese in Bristol for a while as a community link worker.
Cool. When you were doing your community link worker, that's when I first got to know you a little bit. In fact, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you first started in your role? You did a slightly unusual way of getting to know. Could you just explain what a community link worker was, first of all? Would that be?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was until I saw the job. But it was basically working. When I saw the advert, it said they needed someone at a church in Bristol to work as a community worker and schools worker on a new housing development. So I thought that looked interesting. It was to help build community within the new housing developments and form links between the church and the new housing estates that were going up in Bristol. So I applied for it and got the job, which was great. But then I found quite quickly it was a little tricky to make friends and get to know people. I didn't know Bristol. I moved from Tadley, which is near Basingstoke, and where I was teaching, and went to do a completely different job in an area where I didn't know anybody. So it was a bit of a challenge, and I was thinking, gosh, how can I meet people really quickly? How can I form conversations that are gonna, introduce me to people? So I got there in the January, and thankfully, Fair Trade Fortnight falls in February. So I'd been to something that was talking about fair trade, and it was advertising a few things that you could do to promote it, and one of which was wearing a banana costume. So I thought, why don't I just do that for the whole of Fair Trade Fortnight, dress up as a banana. It'll be a great conversation starter, and I don't know, it'll be quite fun. So when I first got to Bristol, had a couple of weeks settling in, and then spent 2 weeks as a banana, and everyone thought it was great. I had loads of conversations with people, and it was a great way to just meet people. I met a lot of the builders on the development who then would go into people's houses and say, have you met Banana Lady? Because she's here trying to set things up, so you might want to talk to her. And so that was really good. I met a painter for the Red Row, the housing people, and he basically, every time he saw a new mum, told them that I was trying to set up a playgroup. So that was fantastic because he was making those links for me. But I think dressing up as a banana just brought a bit of joy to everyone, and it helped people know that I was there and what I was doing, and it also got me in the local paper, so that also was a great start.
I was going to say I've used that story far too many times.
Yeah.
But maybe God's calling you to dress up as a banana for fair trade.
Maybe.
But actually, sometimes it is that thing of actually doing something that's going to just help break the ice, isn't it? Sometimes you just need something to start a conversation. So what else did you do to help to get to know people other than dress up as a banana?
Yeah, so I did a lot of baking, which is really good. If you give free food to people, that tends to warm people's hearts, especially the builders on the site. Like if you give them cupcakes and stuff, they were delighted, and they helped because they were going into lots of people's houses. They helped tell people about the things we were doing. I connected with the care home, and we had like a coffee afternoon there that was set up already by the curate who was at St. Michael's, and I kind of took that on, and I added like a playgroup element to the coffee afternoon, which the care home said that they loved because they didn't often have younger children coming in, and that's still going now, and it's developed into more of a playgroup within the care home. So that's really nice, and so did that.
Yeah. I think food is often that key element to bring people together, isn't it? I think you
Yeah,
used to do lots of things like Macmillan coffee mornings and all those sort of things as well. Those sort of, yeah, getting people
yeah,
cake and coffee is a good way of
yeah.
community and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
That's right. I think it's good, especially if you're trying to encourage people to form links with the church or come into the church, is to find something that they know about already and they feel confident and happy about. So Macmillan Coffee Morning, lots of workplaces do that as well. Lots of schools do it. So it's something that people know about. It's not like come to this church event that's maybe a little bit daunting or scary. So I did tend to pick up on the main things that were going on at the time, maybe like sport relief, Red Nose Day, that kind of thing, and then do something around that. And it kind of would help people engage with the church. Yeah.
So that was your time when you were working in Bristol. But before that, you said you were a secondary school teacher, and after that, you become more recently you're a full-time mum. How
Yeah.
you found having a period? Because I think we often think of sort of one of the phrases that I might have to edit this bit. I'll start that again. One of the phrases that often annoys us is people talk about being a full-time Christian worker. In one sense, obviously you were working for church before that, but obviously you're still a full-time Christian now.
Yeah.
All of us are full-time Christian. How is the whole serving, God using you in this new phase where you've not got a churchy badge or a sort of job title, but are just Rachel, a local mum who loves Jesus? How does that?
Yeah.
How's God working through you now?
So I think I personally went through a really difficult time because when I actually came to leave Bristol, my dad was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. So it was a really hard move from Bristol back to Barnstable. But I really wanted to be here to support my mum, who was kind of on her own dealing with it. And it was a really, really tough year. I mean, supporting my dad through that was really hard. And I think during that time, we had about 18 months that were very black and dark. And so a complete contrast to kind of my life in Bristol almost. Like looking back over that period, my life in Bristol was quite sunny and happy times and lots of things like that. But during that 18 months, supporting my dad through his terminal illness, and I lost a very close uncle, and we also went through a miscarriage. So all of that in 18 months. And I think it was very, very dark, and I lost a lot of my joy. I wouldn't say it was hard because I moved here and I almost didn't want to make any friends. I wanted to keep my head down. I felt almost annoyed at people looking at their happy lives, and I guess a little bit cross that God was, allowing this to happen. I was just in a very bleak place. So I guess for about 6 months, I really struggled to connect. And one of the best things that I did was I went to a play group where I didn't have to talk to anyone. It's run in a church in Bideford. And now I kind of, I'm really good friends with the lady who runs it and help her do some things there. But I remember going to that play group, and it was a music group. So it had 45 minutes of singing and just playing instruments, and she would do a Bible story and then pray at the end, and it's really popular. And I would go and I wouldn't have to talk to anyone. I could just go right at the end. All I could do at that time was sing those songs. I couldn't talk to anyone about what was going on in my life. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. I was pretty miserable. And so I found that church group really, really helpful, because I slowly started to make connections there and slowly would start to stay for coffee. And so it was a complete contrast to how I'd been in Bristol. It was like the other way around. I needed people to reach out to me because the struggles were so great that I couldn't make any connections. So it was a really difficult time. Towards the end of that year, I'd say, I started to come out of myself a little bit. But I remember actually one day when my daughter was about 2, just driving in the car, and I was off to a playgroup in my mum's village. And I remember thinking to myself, what have you done since it was almost like the devil was on my shoulder whispering, Rachel, what have you done since coming back to Barnstable? How many people have you told about Jesus? How have you been salt and light? How have you been a city on a hill? And it was horrible. It was this like tirade of stuff on, you haven't done anything. You have been a really rubbish Christian, basically. And I got to the playgroup, and there was a lady there, a lovely lady who's now my friend, but I didn't know her, called Paige. And she said to me, like, hi, how you doing? You're right. And I was in a really bad mood. And I said, I'm doing terribly. Like, life is really just awful at the moment. And she was like, she couldn't believe that in this British culture, I'd not gone, yeah, I'm fine. I'd gone, my life is really dark at the moment and I'm struggling. And so she then invited me to her house the next week after the playgroup. And I went to her house and we had tea and coffee, and I was in a bit of a better mood. And I noticed she had a keyboard. And I said to her, oh, do you sing? She was like, yeah, I love singing. And I said, oh, do you sing at church? And she said, oh, I don't, but I used to. And I said, oh, okay. And we got into a conversation about how she used to go to church in Ilfracombe. And she talked about how her friend had gone on mission when she was just, I think it was 8, she was just 18, and had got malaria and sadly had died. And it was just this really, we connected. It was literally like somebody I just met, and we connected really well. And then we kept going, I kept going back to her house, and we became good friends and still are. And then at the same playgroup the next week and weeks after that, we met another mum, and called Teresa, who's lovely. And we were chatting to her, and they said to me one week, what are you doing next? What are you doing tomorrow? So this is on the Monday. On the Tuesday. And on the Tuesday, I'd been going to, we have what's called the House of Prayer in North Devon. It's a centre where lots of people from different churches go. They do lots of worship sessions. They do lots of things. It's like the 24/7 prayer thing in America. It's just the House of Prayer in North Devon. And so they ran a playgroup on Tuesday morning, and lots of children went, lots of homeschooling mums, and they were outwardly Christian. So people would pray in tongues, they'd sing worship songs, they'd have like half an hour of worship before the group would begin. It wasn't like a church play group where you just go and there's a little Bible story at the end. So they said to me, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I go to this group called Play and Pray on a Tuesday. And they were like, oh, can we come? And I was like, because I thought, you guys are gonna, I hope they don't start praying in tongues, because you're gonna wonder what that's all about. So I said, yeah, you can come. And I invited these 2 women along, and it was, it wasn't the kind of group you'd invite a non-Christian to, because it was so, it would be so alien to them, I think. But they both came along, and what I was amazed about was I was still not in my best place, and they came with me, and they were asking, you know, when they got to the Bible study bit, they were like, how do you read a Bible? Like, how do I turn? And then one of them said, they were like, right, we're all going to split into groups and we're going to pray now. And then one of them was like, I don't know how to pray. And she said that to one of the women, and the lady had to explain like how you pray. And then another one, and then one of them, Teresa, said, oh, I want to pray like you, to this one woman who had prayed. Like, how do I pray like that? And it was amazing. I didn't say anything. All I'd done is brought them there, and they were asking all the questions like, you know, what does it mean to know Jesus? And how do I pray? And, you know, how all these, one of the girl, Paige, who's really into the singing, was like, these are beautiful songs. Like, where are they from? You know, and to me, because I've grown up in a Christian family, none of it was new. And it not only kind of brought back the awe and wonder of things like worship and prayer, like the way Teresa was talking about prayer, it was like, this is amazing. Why has nobody like explained this to me? Why have I lived my life and not realized how amazing it is to pray like this? And I was kind of, I woke up, I think, at that moment to, you know what, about 2 months before in the car, I'd thought to myself, what are you doing? Who are you reaching out to? And actually, by being vulnerable in that play group and going, I'm having a horrible time, I actually made friends with 2 women who then, even though I was still going through all my struggles, who came to know Jesus and then and then it's very strange, because at that same play group they advertised a prophecy day for women. And Teresa said, yeah, I want to do that. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is going to be on a whole other level. And it was amazing because people prophesied over her, and she was so encouraged, and she was completely blown away by it. And she's still like really strong in her faith. And the thing she loves is prayer. Like during lockdown, I could see all the things she was putting on about prayer, and she can't get enough of it. But it started with that first play group. So yeah.
And so in a tough time, when you felt a whole load of what I'd say was probably false guilt, really, you know, of I'm not good enough. Actually, God met you in a point of vulnerability, used you in your point of vulnerability. It was very different from being a banana in Bristol to a kind of tough time in there, and yet God's really used you mightily to bless 2 of your friends. And so what would you say if you were able to talk to a younger version of yourself, or maybe you sort of, I don't know, either pre-Barnstable or maybe even pre-Bristol? Would there be something you'd like to say to
Yeah, I think I was always, when I was younger, I was a bit scared about being honest about my faith. I would kind of, I think, have Christian conversations with my Christian friends, and then kind of maybe sideline it with my non-Christian friends. But now I don't do that. And I say, even to my non-Christian friends, I need to pray about it, or, you know, God put on my heart this thing to do, or I don't divide my life between the non-Christian and the Christian. And I think when you're younger, you care more what people think of you and how they're gonna take things that you say. But when I remember when I've been doing Bible studies, people are like at the school gates will say, oh, what have you done today? And I'll now say, oh, I did a Bible study and it was on Daniel and it was amazing because I learned this, this and this. Years ago, I would have just said that to Christian friends who would have known what I was talking about. But actually, if you say that to non-Christian friends, like I've said that to non-Christian mothers at the school gates, they're then like, wow, that sounds amazing. You know, and it just gives you an opportunity for conversation. I think when we talk about our lives and prayer and Bible study or something that we've learned and it's a God moment, we still need to share that with our non-Christian friends, because that's what makes our faith exciting and makes it alive. So yeah, if I had to talk to a younger me, I would just say, you know, don't worry about what people think.
just share it, and to sort of share it all, really. I think too often I thought sometimes edited highlights the bits I think they might be interested in, you know, yeah, but actually being real about the fact that my faith in all of it, really. I
Yeah.
also, I was also reminded of something Bishop Lee said, actually. It might have been, oh, well, he might have nicked it from someone else, but he said about not saying somebody else's no for them, you know, because when you know, because I could imagine someone saying, "Oh, can I come to such and such?" And I'd have probably tried to put them off rather than actually take them. You know, actually, and yet for them it was the right thing to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
the idea about saying, "Oh, you wouldn't like it," "Oh, no, it's you know, whatever." But actually, the fact you didn't say their no for them and you let them,
Yeah.
come.
It was definitely like that with the prophecy day.
Yeah,
I spent the whole time like quite knotted up that I thought this could be the thing that makes Teresa flee. This could be the
yeah,
thing. What if someone says something weird and she doesn't like it? Or
no,
but actually she loved it. And I think that is, we worry, but actually God knows more than we do, and he does put people in the right place at the right time.
I've taken friends to things before now, and I've had both reactions of, like, you know, where you do that whole sideways look, see how they're doing. Well, I've had both. It's gone well. I've also had times where it's not gone so well. Is it?
Yeah.
But I suppose that is just trusting that God is big enough to cope with it all, really. You know, and actually your friend, and also your friendship's big enough to cope with it as well. You know, that's, yeah,
Mm.
interesting. Was there anything else you'd like to say as a final thought to either a younger you, or just as a final thought of something you think?
Yeah, I guess I think like we often make excuses for, like, if we're going through a bad time, like, oh, now's not the time to invite them to this, or I'm not really in a place to do that. Like, especially when I was going through that dark time with my dad and I was quite down and depressed, I think obviously I never intended to invite those people to those things, but I realized that even though we're going through tough stuff, God still uses us in our darkness. Like, I'd say almost I've had more conversations. Like, there's a play group that I go to now, and like when I'm down at the park, it's quite close to the park, and I meet people down there, and I've told a lot of them, oh, the playgroups restarted, did you know? And they're like, oh no, I didn't realize because of COVID it's been cancelled. And so this playgroups gradually filled up, and they've had to separate into two groups now, which is great. But one of the ladies who runs it said to me, oh, you're really good at bringing people in, like, I don't know how you do it. And I just said, well, I just talk to people. And often I find, you know, if you're with their children, or they're looking at a bit down, or that somebody at the swings, it's just starting those conversations, like, oh, how old is your little one? Or, you know, just even about the weather, just starting those conversations, and then just keep talking for a bit, and then it breaks through those barriers, and then you can invite them to places and say, oh, I go to this. And it's just having those shared experiences. And I think also because I've been through difficult times, I can kind of recognize that look now of, like, I just want someone to talk to me, because actually I can't reach out. I can't make a friend at the moment because I'm too weak, or I'm just going through too much. So I think that dark time has enabled me to see what it's like to struggle to do that. I think before that, I was kind of, I would never have understood the difficult struggles that something like depression can put on your life. So yeah.
Brilliant. No, thank you so much, Rachel. That's been